Welcome to Poz Vibe Podcast, a podcast for HIV positive people, their friends, family and allies. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to a very special episode of the Poz Vibe Podcast. I'm the co-host, Robbie Lawler.
And I am Veda Lady, the infamous Veda Lady. And today we're in a new studio called The Playground. And we're going to be filming, hopefully, a few episodes here. Mm-hmm. And it's a very special episode
This
today.
special is a bit nerve-wracking, actually, people showing our faces we do this. Especially with our background, you know, we're shrouded in darkness. But I think we bring a good aura.
Yeah, well, you're always shining, baby.
Aww.
Speaking of shining, I love your t-shirt.
Thank you. Pink Pony Club, for anyone who hasn't heard. Chapel Rowan.
We're having a special, I have one here, it's called Strike a Pose, but I'm calling it Strike a Pause. And these t-shirts were designed by our friend Gabe Marques for thegraw.ie, and they're doing a little collab with us today. So shout out to thegraw.ie, which is an ice cream shop and a t-shirt shop and a queer space and a queer business. So thank you for the t-shirts.
What more could you want?
I could want a lot more. I want a special guest. And boy, do we have one. We have an activist, a superstar, a mom, a glamour goddess, pure blonde ambition.
Everyone give it up for Emma McAnally. How are you getting on, Emma?
I'm fine. I'm like overwhelmed by your introduction. I'm like, yeah, it's always like when people are describing you, it's I don't ever think of myself as anyone, you know, special or I'm just a mum. Like I'm just a normal girl from Glasgow. Like
you are a HIVIP.
Yes,
especially to us. It's so important that we get to platform the voices of everyone living with HIV, but especially women, because women are just not represented enough in this space.
No, I agree. Yeah, so I feel really honoured to be here and to be able to speak and share my story, and it's just amazing.
Before you do, we just want to say welcome to Ireland. This is your first time, if I'm not mistaken. How have you found Ireland so
I want to move here. I'm obsessed with everything. I'm obsessed with the food. Like, just everything is so much better over here. I can't explain it. Like, it just feels like a completely... I mean, I know we're in the EU, but it feels I'm here on holiday, but I feel like I'm on holiday. But
you're a McAnally. And your partner's a Donnelly, so I think there's Irish blood in you. So,
there is,
and you're now a member of the Poz Vibe Tribe. Just come here. Who cares about the housing crisis? We'll find somewhere
just come
for
here.
you.
Yeah, we'll find somewhere. We'll just get a tent somewhere.
It's a homecoming of sorts, though, right? Maybe that's what you're feeling.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah, I have ancestry here, so I've always felt I've always wanted to come to Ireland. I've always had this feeling that I needed to come here. Mm-hmm. Do you know? And like, obviously now I've got more than one reason to come. So like, I feel like a deep connection.
One of our, I suppose, proudest things in our heritage is that Irish people are told to be good storytellers, Shanachie. And I've had the absolute pleasure of listening to you on so many interviews in the UK, sharing your story of living with HIV, about domestic and sexual abuse. And you just hit a chord in me. You are able to just share your story in such a way that just humanizes the experience so much. And it makes it like, and I've been doing this for so long. And it's like, why do we stigmatize HIV? You're just such a brilliant Shanachie, if I say so. So do you want to share with our listeners a bit about your story? Let's give them the pleasure that I was able to have.
Where do I start? I suppose I can start. Well, I was diagnosed in 2016. But a year before that I met my then partner, and when we met, we both come from previous relationships, and he had suggested that we get an STI test, which seemed really sensible. So I'd gone for one, and obviously it came back clear, and he had, made an excuse like the clinic was too busy or something. And obviously being, a lot of people will say, oh, you were in love. I'm going to just be honest and say I was naive, because I just thought, I'm fine. Like, I wasn't aware of any risks. I didn't know anything about HIV. I suppose at that time I had my own stigmatized views. So I didn't think there would be any risks, and I thought, well, my results are clear, we're going to be fine. Like, so we decided to stop using protection, and it was clear almost immediately that everything was not okay, because I developed genital herpes. So I was really unwell with that, and I kept having recurring outbreaks. So anytime we would have sex, I would have an outbreak. And I got to the point where I thought, like, how can I live like this for the rest of my life, you know? Because I really thought I was going to be with this person for the rest of my life. So after about maybe, I don't know, maybe 6 months of being together, he'd called me up one night and said, I think I'm HIV positive. And I just thought, well, immediately I said to him, if you think that, go and get a test. But then I started looking into it and going, like, why does he think that? And I did find that there was a link between herpes and HIV. And I'm not saying, that's not me saying that if you've got genital herpes, you've got HIV, but I think it's a bit complex, but it could, you know, herpes lies dormant. So it could be that triggered. It could have already been there in me or whatever.
So just to kind of give a bit of science background on it. So we know it is if you get HIV, most HIV transmissions also comes with another STI.
Right.
And one of the reasons is when we have an STI and we're not on medicine or we don't know about it, it increases the viral load in your vaginal fluids or in your semen, and also it piggybacks on the STI. So when genital herpes, you're exposed to it, HIV is piggybacking on it. Imagine like a little cowboy riding genital herpes with a little lasso.
Yeah.
And then when there's an opening in the vaginal tissue or anal tissue, then it's easier for HIV to get in. So it increases the viral load and it makes it easier then to get into your system through like torn mucosa.
Yeah, so you explain that perfectly, because there's no way I would have been able to explain that. But yeah, like I think that I did find that there was an increased chance of acquiring HIV. But at that point, I wasn't HIV positive. It was a few months later where I experienced seroconversion. But obviously at that point, didn't know that that's what I was going through. I was really sick. And as someone who is generally fit and well, I don't get sick very easily.
What kind of symptoms are you experiencing?
Everything. So when I eventually had to go for my test at the sexual health clinic, I googled what are the symptoms of HIV, and it said there are no symptoms, but when you experience or when you contract the virus, these are the symptoms that you could expect to experience. And it was things like a flu-like illness, fever, a rash all over your body, like I'm trying to think, like pain maybe, like, and it's so hard to think. I just remember being really, really sick for about a month. You know, like it was weeks and weeks before I actually felt better. I felt really weak and couldn't eat anything. I had mouth ulcers, obviously outbreaks of herpes. I was really, really unwell. And actually looking back, I can't believe I never went to hospital. Like I suffered for days. I was in bed for like over a week. So yeah, I had every symptom going, but never at the time thought. I suppose my intuition kicked in a bit, because I don't know what it was, but I phoned my partner at the time and I said to him, you know, I'm really, really unwell and I'm never sick. And you never went for that test a year ago. I did, and it was clear, but you never went. And I think now you need to go. And I don't know what possessed me, like, but yeah, intuition, I suppose.
It must be because people just think seroconversion is a really bad flu, or might have been a byproduct of the genital herpes. You know, it could be anything. But yeah, the fact that you were like, no, let's follow this through, especially because it happened a few months later, is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I know, because it amazes me, like, how did I think or know to do that? But yeah, anyway, so he ended up getting a test, and obviously it came back that he was HIV positive, and then that was what led me to then going and getting tested. And of course it wasn't. And I never, like I said, ever in a million years thought that's something that would happen to me, until I was sat there in the waiting room waiting on my results and googled what are the symptoms and thought, oh shit, I have got it. I do. I'm okay to swear, am I?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
God.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Shit. I am HIV positive. So even though I kind of was expecting it, still getting that result was life changing. I really wasn't expecting that in a million years.
How did the doctor tell you the news? Was your partner with you, or you by
No,
yourself?
no, and that was part of the thing actually when, eventually I did escape that relationship, and I'm going to say escape because it was an abusive relationship.
Okay.
And actually the doctor that was treating me said, we did take note that actually your partner never attended with you because it's quite unusual. Normally if you're going through that together, it would be quite normal for them to go along with it. And meeting my partner now, Paul, like the first time I went for my bloods after being with him, he was like, "Oh, I'll come to the hospital with you," and I was like, "No, it's fine, like I'm used to going by myself." And he was like, "No, I think I'd like to come with you, like I feel like I want to support you." So like that's normal for in a healthy relationship for a partner to.
He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
You met him outside with your two
Yeah,
gorgeous
he really
kids,
is.
but what
He's
a lovely man. Yeah.
amazing. He's such an incredible person. So, but yeah, my partner at the time, my ex-partner wasn't with me. I was by myself. The doctor was really good, and he did say to me like, it's going to be okay. I just started my nursing degree, so he was like, you can still be a nurse, you can still have babies, you can still do everything you've planned to do. It doesn't affect anything, and you're going to be able to live a normal, a long and healthy life. But I'm sure you'll know this, and other people will think this too. It's like you cannot get rid of that voice in the back of your head thinking, what are people going to think of me? It's the stigma. It's so, even though they're telling you you're going to be fine, you're going to be healthy, but you just think like, oh, like I've got this.
In that moment, you don't
Yeah.
believe them, and you can be healthy, but you can feel, oh, it's a social death, or I'm in some closet now, or there is something wrong with me, or I'm unlovable. Like you can't escape those thoughts initially, especially if you know nothing about HIV initially, right?
Which I didn't, and that was everything that I felt, and actually, I don't know what it's like here, but in Glasgow certainly, you do like your finger prick test, and then they give you your results straight away, but they have to do like the actual blood test to confirm it. So I obviously got my finger prick results then, and then I think I had to wait the weekend and then go back on the Monday to get the actual results.
That's a long weekend.
Yeah, so by the time I went back on the Monday, I just was like, in this. So I sat down. He's like, "Okay, like, what are you thinking?" I was like, I need to talk about this. I need to do something. I need to speak out. I need to raise awareness. Like that was like my kind of secondary reaction was like, why did I not know about this? Why did I not know that, as a woman that I could be impacted by this? I've never seen any women talking about living with HIV. I need to do something. That was the feeling. I just was like, but then also having that thing of like, I'm in this relationship, not knowing I was in an abusive relationship at the time, but knowing that my partner wouldn't be accepting of me speaking out, what people's reactions might be if I did that. I might lose a lot of people and or face rejection. So still, although I wanted to do something about it, I was really aware of the consequences of doing that.
There's a lot of barriers to doing that. That's what makes it so special and amazing that you do it.
Yeah,
but also I just want to or it resonates with me always that there's such a surprise, there's such a shock for a lot of women, and certainly young women who have acquired HIV, and it's a big difference between the queer experience, where certainly someone who was a teenager in the 80s, you're primed, you're warned, you're almost scarlet lettered before you're ever exposed to HIV, so it's not as shocking. And I think it's one of the things that we hope to do is just to inform more young women about it, so that it's not as traumatic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, growing up in Scotland, and sex education over there was non-existent. I think it's probably improved now, but I think I had one lesson of sex education, and it was like talking about the different STIs, and HIV was mentioned, but even at that time I was like, well, that's not going to affect me. Like, I'm not at risk of that,
Yeah.
It was never something that I ever thought I would be at risk of contracting.
Can I bring you back to your relationship, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Because we know statistically that people in domestic abusive relationships are more likely to acquire or contract HIV. But something just resonated with what you said. You were like, I didn't realize it was an abusive relationship then. And I'm sorry if this is a stupid question, but like, when did that penny drop? When did you realize, oh my God, this is abusive, I need to get out of this?
I mean, I couldn't really say for sure. I think I had sort of gradually come into that realization. You know, there were moments where I thought, oh, this isn't good. Or you would see something like, you know, as a nurse, I did like a module on domestic abuse, and there were parts of that, you know, we seen like a women's aid video, and I thought, oh, that's kind of how I feel, or, you know, I've experienced things like that, but never thought, but, you know, you just think, oh, like, no, that's not what I'm going through. I must be the problem, because I'd been in abusive relationships before. So part of you goes, there must be something wrong with me that this keeps happening, right? So I don't think I fully realised until I'd left.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't until I'd left that I started to learn more about the patterns of abuse, the cycle of abuse, why women don't leave, because you're trapped in that cycle, and you get the dopamine hit every time, you know, they reel you back in. And yeah, I learned a lot very quickly after I left.
And then there's a shame as well,
yeah.
really sadly, isn't there? It's like victims feel shame,
Yeah.
you know, and blame themselves.
Yeah.
It's really, and it must, when it's compounded with HIV, it's a very heavy burden.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you've achieved.
Well, and that was part of the reason why I didn't leave, because I knew I was living with this disease, this virus, and I kept thinking, you know, no one's ever going to want me. Like, if I remember phoning my friend one time, like there'd been an argument or something had happened, and she said to me, Emma, I think you need to, you know, think about leaving now. And I said, well, I can't leave, because, you know, I'm not going to be in a relationship ever again. No one's going to want me. And that was probably one of the big decisions that stopped me, or that isn't the reason that stopped me from going back. What happened was, I had Finlay, I had my son, and I thought, right, okay, well, you know, I can go back to this relationship, and I know that I'm not going to be on my own. Like, I'm going to be in a relationship, like, so I'm not going to be lonely, although I would be lonely in other ways. But also, if I stay in this relationship, that could really impact my son. Like, it could have an impact in his future. He could end up being an abuser or being abused himself, because we know that that is the impact of children who are victims of abuse, by the way, not witnesses to. They are also victims. So I thought, okay, I can go back to this relationship and have a partner, maybe not be lonely. It's not the right way to describe it, because I would be lonely in a sense. But yeah, there's a risk that could impact Finlay. But if I leave, I can give Finlay the best start. I'm going to be on my own for the rest of my life, but I'm okay with that. I need to be selfless here, because it's not fair to put that on him. So that was that's what stopped me from going back. But I had totally like come to the conclusion that I was going to be on my own for the rest of my life and just be single and never meet anyone ever again.
Yeah.
I think this is such an important story, because when I was doing peer support, I thought like half my conversations with women living with HIV was, leave your partner now.
Yeah.
You
God,
are lovable. Just because this person puts up with you living with HIV, get out now.
Yeah, no, totally.
And it's the scariest thing, thinking you have to go through life on your own, especially with kids, right? And being a single mother, that's a really hard thing. But like, you have to do, life is for you, and for your kids. And kids aren't stupid. They pick up on things. I say we pick up on things, because, you know, one of the best days that ever happened in my life was when my mum left my dad, you know. And so I think it's such a show of bravery when you can get there, can get there. And I heard from a previous story, so we're going to go talking about your lovely partner now and stuff. When you're in an abusive relationship, like, you kind of cut the ties with family and friends, you know, that's part of the abuse. So you don't even have those connections sometimes to reach out. Is that something you've experienced?
Yeah, definitely. And when I was diagnosed, I didn't have any friends or family around me, because I was cut off. I didn't have contact with my mum, my sister, or my brother. So I didn't have any close family to talk to. And actually, it was only... It wasn't until I left that I told my mum. My mum still didn't know, because I did kind of reconnect with them and rebuild the relationship once Finlay came along. So I was lucky in that sense. But yeah, I didn't have contact with them at the time. And honestly, I don't know if I did have contact, if I would have told them. Do you know? I had to get to a place where I felt comfortable to do that. But you're right. I always say, like, HIV has been like the biggest lesson in self-love, because you really need to sort of find yourself and accept yourself before you can move on. And I got to a point where I thought, like, okay, this is how I'm going to determine if someone's going to be a healthy partner. Because if I tell them that I'm HIV positive and they reject me, they're not the right person for me. But if they are accepting of that, then they're a good person. Like that, so they deserve to be a part of my life. So it's not about me deserving to be a part of someone else's life. It's about, are they deserving of being a part of my life?
And it is that simple, you know. And I love that you said that. One of the things I was thinking about today, pardon me, before we came here, was all of the women who we've had on the podcast and their stories. I often look to the tribe for inspiration for everything that we do, because really it's through the words of people living with HIV, their own words, their own stories, that we really, you know, can destroy stigma.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how half of the women that we've had on the podcast have experienced domestic abuse. Half, which is a big percentage.
Yeah.
And also how all of those women are some of the strongest people I've ever met, and the best HIV activists, you know. Yeah.
And just phenomenal people in general, right?
Yeah.
We love them all. And if you're definitely one for one-liners, I'm obsessed with them. Like HIV is the biggest, you know, lesson in self-love. It's true. And another thing that I'm robbing from your Instagram forever is shame dies when you share stories in safe spaces.
Yeah.
And I always think that's what we try to do with Poz Vibe. I think that's what we try to do in community. When you can, because you dispel the shame if we talk about domestic abuse or from HIV. Is like, actually, the shame's not on me. You know, people try to put the shame on me, and it doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share my story and regain my power. And I think
Yes.
when abusers try and cut off your connection, it's because they want to keep shame on you. They don't want you to be able to share this story.
Yeah.
And they want you to be isolated. Well, we're doing what's antithetical to that. We're building community. We're creating a safe space for story. And I think you just do that so beautifully.
Thank you.
And self-love's hard, right?
Yeah.
Self-love's hard. When you said that it's a lesson, I was like, it's an endless lesson, though.
Yeah,
I'm
it really is.
exhausted. I just constantly seem to be drilling down more and more and trying to. I find self-love to be very challenging.
Yeah.
It could be to do with the way that I grew up, the time that I grew up in, being a camp queer kid. I think I've always struggled with that.
Yeah.
And I find it easier to put my attention on other people.
Yeah.
But and it's one of the hardest lessons that I've learned, that I still think I'm learning today, is self-love.
It is a constant journey. Yeah. Like, you're always growing. You get to a point where you think, oh, right, great, I'm there. And then something else happens that just completely, the self-doubt creeps back in, and the self-esteem is affected. So it is a constant journey.
Yeah, I sometimes say it's like a basement that has a trapdoor in it, and through the trapdoor there's another basement. You know? And I just keep having to go deeper and deeper and deeper
You find
to try and find it, you know.
Oh, yeah, my therapist is a millionaire at this stage, I think. That's me, never mind.
Love therapy, though.
I love therapy.
Yeah.
Everyone should do therapy if they can. I do it, for sure. So let's move on, because you did go through this alone. You got this HIV diagnosis, you had this horrible seroconversion, but you got rid of this guy.
Yeah,
You had
I did.
Finley. How was life after it?
Strange at first, because it was like having to find myself again, but it wasn't finding myself again. It was like finding a new version of me, because I'd been so dependent on this other person for so long. But liberating, because I was free, essentially. So it was a very like, I look back at that time in my life, and at the time it was so traumatic. It really was horrendous. But I almost, like, and I'm not going to say I miss it a bit, but I really cherish that time in my life, because it was just me and Finley, and focusing on surviving every day and just trying to, like, regain my strength, I suppose, and, you know, carve out a new life for us both. So I do have fond memories, because it was a very simple time in my life where, like I say, it was focusing on surviving, getting through each day, and that was where I, you know, with the self-love, like, discovering a lot of practices that helped me to love myself again.
Share
with
us, because
like,
we need it, obviously.
Well, I loved, like, I really found spirituality in that time. and not just the crystals and the the moon phases, and it was all about like self-discovery and being really honest with myself, looking at my shadow self, and like what I know I'm saying that I really blamed myself how I ended up in that situation, but I had to look at like, how did I end up there? What behaviors made me feel like that? But or made me have like this low self-worth and this really low view of myself, that I thought that was the type of love that I deserved. So I had to really dig deep. But it was really validating, a really validating time for me.
Wow. And Emma, did you have to engage with like homelessness services, or how did you get out of your domestic situation?
So I was put in touch with, it was quite strange actually, because my son was on the waiting list for speech and language therapy. He had a speech delay, and he's still got like speech errors and things. So he's on the waiting list for speech and language therapy, and like I think 2 days after, so I was assaulted, and that's how I left. I was strangled.
Wow.
So I left, and then a couple of days later, the health visitor phoned me to give me an update on this speech and language placement that he was waiting on. And I thought she was phoning me because social work were obviously involved because there was a child. So I thought social work had contacted her, and that's why she was phoning me. And then she started talking about speech and language, and I went, oh my God, like I thought you were phoning me because social work had been, and she didn't know anything about what had happened. So obviously I told her what had happened, and she went, do you know what, I'm going to put you in touch with gender-based violence services, which was part of the NHS. So it's kind of like Women's Aid, but it was an NHS service.
Gotcha.
So that woman, so I had a key worker there, and she was incredible because she basically was like, this is what you need to do. You need to do this, that, the next thing. So that was a good start. But then, I don't know, it's probably the algorithm, but then I started to get loads of things coming up about domestic abuse, and I found someone who was a survivor herself, but she was doing counselling sessions, and she had a free group that she ran. So it met like 2 or 3 times a week, and it was meeting other women who were going, some of them were still in abusive relationships, some of them were leaving. That was amazing because I got so much validation out of that. That's when I really started to realise this is what has been happening to me, because a part of you does feel like you're going a bit mad, and you're talking to people about things that have happened to you, and they're going like, you've lost the plot, like, or that can't have happened. There's a lot of gaslighting. So I've gone off on a tangent. I can't remember what you were.
Just about like housing services.
Yeah.
Like,
homelessness.
get you back on your feet,
So the lady from gender-based violence, she had said like, oh, because you have been a victim of abuse, you will get kind of first dibs on houses. I ended up moving back with my mum because that was like a safe place for me. Like I couldn't stay in my flat anymore, just the circumstances and things. So I moved back with my mum, but I suppose that sort of jeopardised any chance of going down the homelessness route.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was told that you'll get kind of priority in housing. Well, I went on to, it's kind of like the affordable rent programme, if you want to call it that, in Scotland, and I was going on, I was like, okay, that house kind of looks okay, and went on it, and it was like you had to bid for it, and I was like, wait a minute, I thought, like, I was told I had a gold pass here, like that. So I just ignored that and thought, I'm just going to try and make it work myself. So I stayed with the plan was to stay with my mum until I was able to sort of find a place of my own. There wasn't really much of a rush, but yeah, so I didn't have really any particular experience with homelessness services or anything at that point. Because the thing was as well, it was that was probably the pride got in the way, because I just qualified as a nurse, so I was a professional, and I had, I was then that I went from when that happened to me, when that incident happened where I was assaulted, I was a student, and then a couple of weeks later I was a qualified nurse.
How you're going through exams and all this.
No, it was wild. Like I and that gave me the determination, because I was assaulted and I had like 2 or 3 weeks left of my nursing degree, and at that time I thought, he's not going to do this to me. I've worked so hard to get to this point, And it was tough. Like, I had sleepless nights. I was really ruminating about a lot of things that had happened and kind of unwell with it. But I was like, I need to get up and I need to go in and get this done, because I'm the provider now. Like, I don't have anyone to rely on. Like, it was all on me. So that gave me a lot of drive as well, knowing that.
Congratulations, registered nurse.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's move on to your gorgeous kids. We met them
Yeah.
also. Finley is your eldest, right?
Yep.
He's around 6, 7 now?
Yeah, 6. He'll be 7 in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
And little Fia came along.
Yeah, and she's
right?
2. Yeah.
She was conked out. She was
And she was out cold. Yeah.
Good woman on herself. She's like myself. Living with HIV, being pregnant, what was that like?
Well, both the experiences were very different. When I had Finley, I hadn't found my voice yet, so I was kind of at the mercy of health services and just sort of went with what they said. So I'm really fortunate because the team that support me with HIV treatment, they're amazing, and they had said, you'll still be able to breastfeed, and there'll be some barriers and stuff, but you'll be able to breastfeed, because that was really important to me. But really early on in my pregnancy, I'd gone up for a midwife appointment, and I didn't see the midwife who was like my kind of assigned midwife. I happened to see a different woman that day, and it was really interesting because I seen this woman at the start, like the first ever appointment, and the last ever appointment. It was so strange. So when I had that first appointment and I was talking to her, and she was asking me, what's your kind of plan for feeding? And I said, I want to breastfeed. And I can't really remember the words, but it was along the lines of, that's not appropriate. Like, you shouldn't really be doing that. So I think just immediately I had this, that was something that I'd wanted to do all my life, and I'd been told that I'd be able to do it. But in that moment, I was like, well, I can't do it. Like, I can't do this, because I was being judged. So, yeah. And I think because obviously the partner I had at the time, I didn't have that support.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like something that was really, talked about or explored. It was just like, right, okay, closed door, that's not happening. So that's something that I still live with to this day. Like, I still have a lot of regret about that I didn't speak up, or that I didn't maybe look into it a bit more or ask more questions. I just kind of like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, obviously, like it's like that self-stigma, I think, kind of kicks in. So that was the first thing that happened. But generally, like, the consultant was great. There wasn't anything that came up that was kind of triggering in that 9-month period, apart from obviously that experience with the midwife. But then I went into labour, and the thing was, I was told that you'll be able to have a normal birth. There were some things like, so once your waters break, you've basically got like 12 hours to give birth to this baby, which sounds like doable, but it's not. Like, things don't always that, right? You can't plan. Like, everyone's labour experience is completely different. So I kind of knew I had this like 12-hour period where I was like, I need to get this baby out, because I didn't want a C-section. Like, I'm quite, even though I'm a nurse, I'm like quite scared of, like, I'm really squeamish. So being cut open, things, it's just no thanks. But also, like, obviously the vaginal birth side of things, that was terrifying me as well, but it was kind of the lesser of two evils. So I didn't want a C-section, so I was like determined I need to get this baby out in 12 hours. So I was very aware of that. And then when I went into labour, I started having contractions, phoned the hospital, and they said come up to get checked. And when I went up, they were like, I think it was like 1 or 2 centimetres dilated, so go back home. And I thought, God, like, what? If this is what it's like at 2 centimetres, like, what's it going to be like at, the fully dilated? Yeah, I'm like, my God. So they were like, what's your pain relief? Like, what pain relief are you wanting? And I was like, gas and air and a water birth. Like, I wanted a water birth. And she went away, talked to her, like the manager, came back and was like, yeah, I'm really sorry, you can't have a water birth because of your status, because you're HIV positive. And I was like, what? Excuse me? And she's like, yeah, no, you can't have a water birth. So I went away, and this is like one of the most vulnerable times in a woman's life. You're in labour, you're about to give birth, and I was absolutely fuming. And it was the middle of the night. I was being sent home. It was like 1 a.m. I got sent home and told to come back once I was further along. So I'm in the car, like absolutely fuming and thinking about, when I go, my adrenaline was like racing, and I was just like, I need to get back there so I can tell them, like, no, this isn't right. Like I need to have a water birth. Like I've never been told, like the consultant never said you can't do this. It was never mentioned. So when I eventually, so my waters did break at like 4 a.m. or something, and went back up, and they put me in the room, and I said to the midwife, like, I want a water birth, and I was never told, like the consultant never said to me that wasn't an option. So I think they must have had to wait until someone came in and they kind of discussed it, and they're like, okay, you can have a water birth. But I had to fight for that, in the middle of being in labour.
Advocating for healthcare work.
Whilst,
my God, the amount of times we hear this makes us fume, especially when you're giving birth.
You're giving birth, and I really think now, looking back, that had an impact on how my birth played out. Like obviously the stress and everything that comes with that. It does have an impact. So I mean, and I'm lucky because it wasn't the most traumatic. It could have gone really badly, but it didn't. It ended up being okay.
So did Finley come out swimming?
No, he didn't, because I kind of gave them their karma, because they got the water, the pool set up for me, and I got in it, and I went, get me back out of this thing. I was like, this is horrible. I felt so exposed. But I think that really comes from like that relationship as well, because I didn't feel secure.
Yeah.
I think if I'd had a water birth with Fia, with Paul being there, I was in a completely different place. But anyway, that never happened for other reasons like this time around. But it wasn't because they said that I couldn't. It was just the way that my labour played out. But anyway, when I was pregnant with Fia, by that point I knew kind of like what my rights were. I'd done a lot more research, so I was like ready to go.
Girl power.
Yeah. And I had Paul on my side as well, who was like, this is my child as well. Like I want, the best for them. So there were a couple of times where we had to challenge the healthcare professionals, which, by the way, is like, we're quite conflict avoidant, so it was didn't come naturally, but we were determined that I always think of the other women that are going to come after me. Like if you don't speak up now, then someone else is going to be going through the same thing, and they might not have the same strength.
Yeah.
Do you know? I'm trying to think of a word where I'm not like being or lacking compassion, as like, you might have a single mother who is on her own and just is at the mercy of the healthcare professionals.
You might just have a bad day as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can advocate for myself and other people. Sometimes I just can't.
Yeah.
You just feel vulnerable and sad.
So I really felt like I had this responsibility to speak up. So one of the things was I had said that I wanted to have delayed cord cutting, because there is research to show that there are loads of benefits to babies who have delayed cord clamping. So I brought it up at this appointment, and they were like, no, that's not going to happen, right? And again, went away, and me and Paul were fuming and did a lot of research, and there was nothing to suggest that there was any more risk to the baby by doing that. So the next time we went up to see the consultant, the two of us were like, armed with all our evidence and ready for a fight. And she said to me, so last time you were here, you gave me some homework to do. And I was like, oh, that's good, because we've been doing our homework as well. So we were, at that point, you're still waiting that she's going to come and say, actually, it's not okay. And we were going to go, no, well, it is, because what we found says it is. But she was like, no, you've given me some homework. So I've gone away and I've looked at a lot of the guidelines, and actually what we've discovered is that the guidelines are really outdated. A lot of the guidelines were put in place in the early 90s and have never been revised. Yeah. So I suppose, long story short, off the back of that, they revised all of their their policy and procedure to manage women living with HIV and pregnancy. All the guidelines, the policy procedures were revised off the back of that conversation. But one of the major things that happened from that was that they said that that delayed cord clamping would be offered to all women living with HIV and pregnancy and labour. Yes. So that came off the back of that conversation. So it's one of my proudest achievements, I think, because it wasn't a thing, it was refused before, but they said, yeah, you're right, from the research that we found, there's no increased risk, and actually the benefits outweigh the risks to children.
Cord rewards.
Cord rewards!
Well done, you.
Yeah, so that Yeah.
So well done on the doctor for going to do the homework. But
Yeah.
can I just say, and I know healthcare workers do listen to this podcast, they
Yeah.
tell me, if you are unsure about something, don't say, no, we can't do
Yeah,
this to you. And then it's just say, I don't know enough about this. Can I come back to you? We
Yes.
respect that so much more as
Yeah,
patients.
then
We don't
saying no, like
exactly.
putting the barriers up. Yeah, like I have so much respect for that doctor because, we had a really good relationship in the end. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were times like, because obviously when I was breastfeeding her, she had to have regular bloods, and I didn't agree with that because it was actually really traumatizing for her. And at one point I said, you know, like we don't agree with this. It's actually really traumatizing. We're not bringing her up for bloods, and then I was threatened with social work.
Yeah.
So there again, there's
social work is often threatened for breastfeeding of HIV. And for our Irish listeners out there, these are the BIVA guidelines, the British HIV Association guidelines, where if you do want to breastfeed, you can. There's some procedures, and one of these procedures is you can't mix, so you can't do breastfeed and formula feed. It can be only predominantly breastfeeding. And you have to get tested way more regularly, which many parents say is traumatizing for both you and the child, and for the partner, of course. So there are things to consider when you are doing this. But again, it's all about that self-advocating. But I just think they're just being extra cautious. In Ireland, we haven't changed our guidelines. So the advice is still no to breastfeeding. We still want to catch up with BIVA.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking, isn't it?
Shocking.
That, like, I mean,
it's it's ad hoc. It depends on what kind of HIV doctor you get.
Yeah.
But there might be a reporting system for breastfeeding with Social Security. I'm not too sure of it, but we haven't got that guideline where it's across the board.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
You know, and even America now have updated their guidelines to say that it's safe to breastfeed, and actually, there is evidence to show that it is safe.
And culturally, it's so important for people from all over the world. You know, breastfeeding for any mother, it's important, but culturally, it's even more important for some people, and they even feel less of a mother if they can't breastfeed culturally, and or what their idea of motherhood is. So it's really salient, important point for many women living with HIV, and we need to address it. Ireland, we're hearing, we know many amazing women who will definitely advocate on behalf of this. But anyways,
and really everything to do with being a woman who's living with HIV, we need to address, don't we?
Yeah, because it's
just
different.
so biased.
It's not taken away from your experience, but it is completely different. I think I've heard someone say that before, where like, you know, it's still difficult for everyone to come to terms with or live with or get their head around. But I think for women especially, there are a lot more kind of rules in place, if you like, and there's a lot of barriers, and there's a lot more reasons for stigma still to remain.
And a lot less research.
A lot less research, and across the board in women's health, there is a lack of research. So
before we move on, I think we're like running out of time. I could talk to you all day,
we could talk
every day.
all day.
We will.
Yeah.
Let's go to a pub.
But
I carry that song.
You found love.
I did.
Do you want to quickly go into that, because I have a health-based question at the end as well.
Yeah, that's fine. Because I could talk all day about like how we met and everything. It's a bit of a long story, but I met Paul. He was running he runs a recovery group, like addiction, mental health, and I'd followed him for a while and thought that looked. I didn't know it was him, obviously, that was running it, and I thought that looked really good. And obviously, coming out of an abusive relationship and trying to find connection again and meet other people, and I thought, it looks so fun. You know, they were going out every weekend and doing these like dips and going walks, and that was right up my street. Like I've always been a hill walker, taking Finlay at hill walks and things. So it looked really appealing to me. So I'll not go too much into it, because it actually, the way we met was quite like it was fate, like it was destined to happen, because he was going out one weekend to this waterfall I had never heard of in my life, and it was like the day before he put the post up to say this is where we're going. I had just found out about this place. I didn't know it existed, and I thought, that's so strange. Like how could I didn't know about this place, and now I was like, oh, that's a sign. Like it's for sure a sign. So I contacted him, although not knowing it was Paul, and said, you know, oh, like I've only just heard about this place. I can't believe you're going. He said, well, come along this weekend. I was like, oh, can kids come? Because I'm a solo parent. I don't have childcare. And he's like, yeah, kids come all the time. Bring them along. Went along. and met Paul there and got talking to him. And I remember driving off and saying to Finlay, he was such a nice man, wasn't he? Like, because there was no romantic connection. It was, it was just, he is such a lovely guy. And I remember going back that night, I had my, I was talking about the support group that I was going to for domestic abuse survivors, and I'd said to the ladies at the group that night that I've met this guy and he's just so genuine. He's like the nicest guy I've ever met, I think. But yeah, again, there was no like romantic intention behind it. It was just like, he is such a genuinely lovely guy. So I kept in touch with him and we were friends for a bit, and then eventually like I think it was like a random bank holiday, like I was off and Finlay was in nursery, which like never ever happened. I had this random day off to myself, didn't know what to do, and I'd been speaking to him and he was like, oh, like, let's go for a coffee. And it was at one of my favourite places in Scotland, which is called Tiernanog, which is a spiritual
very Irish, can I just say?
It's Irish.
And now we've since been here, we see it everywhere. We've seen Tiernanog everywhere we've gone in Ireland. So we met up at Tiernanog, which is a little spiritual centre and just outside of Glasgow. Had a coffee, and then he did paddleboarding, so we went out and paddleboard. I sat in the front like a,
you like it wet, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like you're waterfalling in love, and then you're paddleboarding on a date.
Yeah, it wasn't a date at the time. It was like, we were still, it was just like friends. But then obviously now looking back, we're like, oh, that was like our first date. So that was how we met. I know it's a bit of a long story. It could have been longer, but yeah. And so I obviously didn't tell him about my status straight away. It was, I think we've been together like a couple of weeks, maybe a month or something. And I thought, you know what, I need to tell him now. I need to just get out there and find out. Because again, it's one of those things where you think someone can be like the nicest person ever, but they could also be really like prejudiced and not have an understanding of HIV. You can have the most educated person that's been to university and got top degrees, and they can still lack an understanding of HIV.
So look at healthcare workers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was still a bit nervous, although I had a pretty good idea that it was going to go, like 90% sure, like everyone's going to be fine. So I decided to tell him that I was positive, and after I told him, it was just like complete silence, and I was like, so is there anything that you want to ask me? He's like, no. He's like, I accept everything that I know and don't know about you. So, but he was also the one that said to me that oh god, it's escaped me now, but I always use this quote of his because it was like the people who care, or the people that matter don't care, and the people who care don't matter, or something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like, the important people in your life, the people that are meant to be there, like they it doesn't matter to them. But the people who are obviously have these negative views and opinions, like they just don't matter. They don't matter.
We try to tell people that all the time. Like if we think, like just going back to the other point, like that we said, people are like, oh, I can't leave my partner because no one else will understand, or I couldn't tell. But there are good people out there. Morris, when I told my fella, he was like, it's just one extra thing I'm going to learn to love about you. You know, these people exist, and we're
they do.
2.5 years, and there's hope out there. There really is.
There is hope.
But it's scary. It's a scary time. But I think you're a shining light, and Paul is a gorgeous human being, and you have two gorgeous kids, and you're a real success story. I think you give hope to so many people.
Thank you.
I feel hopeful.
I hope so. That is my purpose. I always said, like, if I can just help one person, then I've done my job. But yeah, I think it's so important to keep speaking and reaching as many people as possible, because it turns out that there's loads of women out there that are living in silence and don't feel that they can speak out, and I just hope that I give them courage and hope.
Well, you're giving me courage, and I don't have a vagina. But can I just say, we're going to finish on this because it's very important, and we've never talked about it on the pod before, and it's my favourite topic in the world. Vaginal dryness, right?
Oh God!
or perimenopause and menopause. And the reason why I say this is because I've seen a post where you were like, I might be going through perimenopause, and Veda, you hit on it there that women living with HIV, just no research done on the lived experience, maybe what it's like to be pregnant or give childbirth, but never actually the lived experience. And menopause is such a big part of women's experience in life. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you understand for perimenopause? HIV?
Just from living with HIV, because that's the thing. Until about a year ago, I didn't have any knowledge of that. I mean, I was aware of perimenopause because a lot of people that I know are kind of experiencing it, so I was aware of it. But I think it's one of those things where, you know, people ask you like, oh, how does that HIV impact your life? And you're like, oh no, it doesn't. You just take a pill every day, you know, and it keeps you well. And that is true. But I think, like, that's what we're saying. It impacts women in so many ways, not just in pregnancy. There's like so many other things that you need to consider. But this is something that I found out because I had some symptoms and I thought this kind of is similar to some of the people that I follow and some of the friends that are going through perimenopause. They were talking about vaginal dryness and, you know, mood changes and things. And I started to think, God, like that really feels like what I'm going through. Because I'd never, like TMI, like the vaginal dryness was a horrendous, like really bad, like, and I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. It was excruciating, actually. So I'd had an appointment with, the clinic where I get my treatment in Glasgow, and they were like, oh, how's things? And there was a lot going on at the time, and I was like, oh, this is happening, that's happening, and I think I might be perimenopausal. And the nurse said, threw it out there this is an extra thing. I think it might be perimenopausal. She said, oh, no, what age are you? And I was like, I think 35 at the time. And she was like, well, there is research now that says that women living with HIV can experience perimenopause and the menopause earlier than the average woman. And I thought, fucking great, like brilliant, like just another thing to have to worry about. So I don't know. Obviously I was still sort of postnatal, like there's like a 2-year period after you have a baby where you're still trying to get back to normal. It's really difficult to know because when I had Finlay, I didn't breastfeed him for a start. I was back in my size 6 jeans within 2 weeks. Do you know, it was completely different. I didn't have a lot of these symptoms that I've been having. So part of me was thinking, is this because, you know, when I was breastfeeding, things were maybe delayed. And now this is me going through that postnatal period a little bit differently. Maybe it's just, you know, is it my age? Because I'm a bit older now and I've had a baby later in life. I really don't know. But then a lot of the symptoms that I've been experiencing they could be linked to perimenopause. So I think they've taken some bloods recently to sort of clarify that, and nothing came back. And things have been okay the last couple of months, I guess. Like, well, I've not had any vaginal dryness, like, let's put it that way, but
lube equals lube.
Yeah, well, I had to discover that one.
It's interesting you say that, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because the PRIME study done in the UK was done in 2015. It's the very first study to ever look at women living with HIV experiencing menopause in 2015.
Yeah, wow.
Well, as we know, all women don't experience menopause the same, but women living with HIV are more likely to experience the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause more strongly, and we don't know why that is. So you're more likely to have vaginal dryness, your libido might be down, lack of interest in sex, you might have more mood swings, hot flushes, more anxiety and depression. That kind of
get a fringe.
Compounded by HIV, get a fringe. All these different things. So seek help.
That does happen, by the way. I got bangs.
You got bangs, high depression. So talk to your doctor and do not be ashamed about it, and get it checked up, because there are things you can do. There's HRT, or there's vaginal estrogen cream to help you with vaginal dryness. You don't have to be irritated for like 10 years. Just talk to your doctor, because you don't have to do that, and you don't have to do it alone.
Get weather, get better.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wrap this up. It's been so wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better, and I hope that you'll stay in touch and stay close to the tribe and come back and see us often.
Yeah, I will. Maybe live here. Move. I'd love to move here so much.
And if not, we're going to Glasgow. Right.
Yeah, come and see me in
Glasgow.
Let's glow.
Yeah.
Let's glow.
Okay, thank you so much, Emma, for coming and
Thanks
on
for
your
having me.
holidays to join the Poz Vibe Tribe. I hope this is the best landmark you've seen so far.
Yeah, this is the best.
It's nice to be in our new studio, Veda.
Yeah, shout out to the playground. It's fantastic here.
Thanks for all the listeners and now watchers for watching this episode of the Poz Vibe podcast.
And finally, the fab t-shirts from thegraw.ie, ice cream and t-shirts in a queer space.
Perfect.
And that's it from us. Until next time, let's all try to stay positive
and stay powerful.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Poz Vibe Podcast. If you enjoyed this week's episode, show us you care by leaving a review wherever you listen. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Poz Vibe Podcast for all the latest news and updates.